Des fois, j'ai bien failli ne pas m'en sortir. Mais le plus grand risque que j'ai jamais couru, c'est avant ma naissance. Ma mère était jeune.
Then I talked to some people I didn't even know. They were kind, caring, and compassionate. They helped me make a choice I could live with.
The Vitae Foundation, for 20 years, saving lives and helping women. An initiative truly orchestrated by the hand of God. For Carl Landwehr, his journey into the pro-life arena began in 1969, when one of his professors at the University of Missouri surprisingly brought up the subject of abortion.
The professor began to argue in favor of abortion. And I wasn't sure at all about this topic. I never thought about it, quite honestly. And the more he talked, the more it became an irritant. I just sensed the arrogance of this man to say one person should live and others should die. I just didn't believe that was any business of us mere human beings to make that judgment.
By the early 1990s, with abortion now legal in the United States for almost 20 years, Carl began to ponder a bold step in the fight to save the nation's unborn children. A national media campaign that would educate the public and eventually make abortion unthinkable. It had never been done before.
We didn't have a clue. We just knew that there ought to be a national campaign.
That was the beginning of what would become known today as the Vitae Foundation, an international media organization made up of thousands of supporters, effectively changing the hearts and minds of millions of people around the world and saving the lives of tens of thousands of unborn babies. A team of like-minded people had to be assembled to expand the idea. But the mission was daunting, a pioneering, even revolutionary idea to tell the pro-life message through the use of high-quality television commercials.
You know, I used to be pro-choice, and then something happened to me. I had a baby of my own. When I was pregnant, I finally realized that all this little kid was trying to do was make it, just like all of us. So I haven't figured it all out yet, but why, when I wanted the baby, it was a baby, and when I didn't, it was something else. Think about it.
Archbishop Joseph Naumann at the time was a parish priest and pro-life director in the Archdiocese of St. Louis.
I remember thinking at the time, just because of the numbers of the dollars that were involved to do something effectively, that there's no way we can do this. But in my mind, I always knew it was something that we needed to do and we had to do, but I couldn't see any way, any path to really get this going.
Dr. Susan Harvath helped to shape Vitae's overall marketing strategy.
When I first heard of the idea, I thought it was crazy. I didn't think there was any way that a grassroots pro-life movement would ever be able to compete with any kind of a project like this on a national level, with the kind of professionalism that Carl had in mind and the breadth of the project. I just never thought it would ever happen.
Peter Hershen stepped up to finance the initial research to craft the right media message.
I knew that it had never been done. Nobody had ever been that nutty to reach out and actually use the media.
Debbie Sansone-Schlaprizi and her family were among the first financial donors.
And the approach was a much more, his background I think was much more sociological. And it was from studies, and there was a sense of understanding people and how people think.
We had to ask the right question. So I asked Carl, how do women think? How do they arrive at that decision? He said, how do you know? What's going on in mom's head? How does she arrive at a decision to support or to abort. And he didn't know that. I didn't know the answer to that.
But it was really in it for the long haul. How do we change the culture? How do we change the society? And let's use the tools that can be used for evil, like the electronic media sometimes is, but it also, those same tools can be used for so much good if they're used effectively.
I remember how I felt when I saw those ads. I thought, this is it. This is where we're called as a people to relate to who we are. These are ads that are touching us at the level of the human spirit.
But they say there's a fine line between genius and insanity. So there are times we'd leave the meeting and we'd say, really? Can we achieve that? What are we doing here? I don't think this is going to work.
A number of people said, well, even if you raise the money, and I had these concerns myself, even if you raise the money, you'll never get the stations to allow you to put the ads on the air. If the stations wouldn't do it for the right reasons, if we had enough money, they would. They would eventually be open to this just from their own self-interest. And that once we got one station to agree, then it would be very difficult for the other stations to resist.
Again, divine providence seemed to step in. A man named Clyde Lear and his company, Learfield Communications, agreed to place the Vitae commercials on the statewide University of Missouri sports broadcasts. That was the tipping point that put Vitae in the world of mass communications.
There are men and women who are living productive, gainful lives. They're voting, they're paying their taxes, they're working. Some of them are in fact raising a family. They wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be here if Vitae had not done its work.
I wasn't married and I was really scared.
Sure, it's hard, but you do what you know is right.
I wish I could have been a doctor.
They say our children are the future.
Y mi razón es que lidiar. El tiempo no se detiene.
We now know an unborn baby's heart beats at 21 days.
The Vitae Foundation. Today, 2 decades later, still helping women, still saving the lives of our unborn children.
I think some of those first ads, that was, to me, just a pure act of the Holy Spirit. It just seemed the Holy Spirit had his wing over this campaign all along the way.
As long as there's one unborn baby that's at risk for death, we need Vitae to have that voice for life in this culture. God never said it was easy, but he did tell us to get in there and fight, to stand for truth, and that in the end we will be victorious.